Hey, good morning, girl. It's your dad, Miguel. Miguel, Miguel Trujillo. How are you doing? Today is the 13th of June, 2019. I hope you're doing well today, Em. I was just considering this morning that your birthday is coming up, and it's coming up rapidly. I think it's next Friday, not this coming Friday, but next Friday, and you will be 15 years old. The big 1-5. That's amazing. You are essentially a young adult right now, and that's fantastic. I mean, what a wonderful thing. Do I remember when I was 15 years old? I do. Well, I was in high school. Yeah, I was a sophomore. I remember a few things from my sophomore days. I remember my English teacher. Oh, yeah. I didn't care for my honors English teacher back then. Um, yeah, let's see. What else? Oh, yeah. Driving. Driving was on my mind a little bit. I had a feeling that I needed to get places. I wanted to go places, and I didn't have a vehicle. So I had to get rides from my parents. I remember my mom used to drop all the boys off at the mall. That was, by the way, a lot of fun. I had the greatest time hanging out with my bros, my brothers, and hanging out at the Winrock Mall or the Coronado Mall. Mom would just sort of truck us out there and drop us off and say, I'm going to be back in 3 hours or something like that. And we'd meet up in 3 hours at some place, and usually the exit or entrance of the mall. And for 3 hours, we'd be just hanging out at the mall. I mean, that was a big deal back then, and it was really enjoyable. We were lucky to live in Albuquerque at the time. I was about 15 years old, and it was a good time. I think one of the first places that we would go after we get dropped off at the mall was the game room. Back then, they had video game arcade rooms, and I spent a lot of time in those rooms as a kid. Generally, they were kind of loud. There was lots of digital music playing. Quite often, the lights were off or dim or dark, and you just kind of find your way through them. And you'd put a quarter. Back then, every video game was a quarter. You'd put a quarter into the video game, and you'd get 3 lives or whatever, and you'd be challenged for like 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes if you were a really good player. Back then, video games were really tough. They were really tough. They took a lot of skill, and you had to dump a lot of quarters into those video games to make some kind of progress, because really you couldn't get good at a video game unless you played it really frequently. Some video games that I have really deep, wonderful feelings around playing were like Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and Space Invaders. These were amazing games. And then I also played so many. Lunar Lander. Oh my gosh. I love that game so much. Lunar Lander is a game where you control this spacecraft, and it's about to land on the surface of the moon. But if you the button you press controls the amount of force that the sort of the booster flame pushes you up against gravity, and there's also like this the jagged surfaces where there are like landing pads here and there. And so you gotta, first of all, you gotta steer your spacecraft so it lands, and so it lands on the right spot, like a landing pad, and then it also lands at the right speed, or else your lunar lander crashes. Anyway, I had a blast playing that game a lot. Battlezone was another game that I played a lot. Some games I didn't care for so much, but sometimes I played anyway, were like Missile Command, Xevious. That was a good one. 1942. 1942 is this game about you're like a battle plane and you're shooting other planes down during World War II, I guess. And there are all kinds of, I played all kinds. Wizards and Warriors. Now that was an amazing game. Wizards and Warriors was a multiplayer game where like 3 or 4 people could play simultaneously, and they would, they would press a button and their sword would swing and they'd kill ghosts or something like that. In this layout, which was like the Dungeons and Dragons layout, which was like some kind of adventure in a cave or in a castle or something like that. Pretty good stuff. Another game that I used to play and that I loved was called Turbo. Oh my gosh, I have a lot of deep, wonderful emotions when I think about the game Turbo I used to play. Basically, it was like a race car game where you were this Formula One car on this racetrack, and you would, every subsequent level you would move to a different racetrack, and you have the steering wheel, and there was a pedal at the bottom, and there was also this gear shift, high and low or something like that. And let me tell you, it was like a first person perspective, so you're in the driver's seat and you're essentially weaving back and forth, not crashing into other cars as they came speeding by, as they sort of overtook you, or as you passed them up. Man, that was a lot of fun. I love playing Turbo. I also liked playing Sky Hunter, which was like a 007 type game, where it was also another racing game. Spy Hunter, that's what it was called. Did I say Sky Hunter? I meant Spy Hunter. And I don't know, there's just so many amazing games. Like Defender, I'd play all the time. Defender was not one of my favorite games. It was one of those video games that were really tough, really hard. If you could last 2 minutes in Defender, you're doing well. There are just some games that ramped up the difficulty level way too fast. Way too fast. One example of a game like that ramped up the difficulty level, besides Defender, which was exactly one of those that did that, was Ghosts and Goblins. Oh my gosh. This is a hugely difficult game. I actually, at the time, when I was a kid, I played video games using the Nintendo video game system. And Ghosts and Goblins came out, and I actually got the Ghosts and Goblins Nintendo video game cartridge. And let me tell you, the Nintendo version of that game was just so tough. But since it was a game that I had, I played a lot of it, and I did get past like the second and third levels, maybe the fourth level. But what that represents is like playing that game for hundreds of times, trying to figure out ways to move around those zombies. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. Super Mario Brothers. Come on, that's the granddaddy of all games. I beat that game many, many times. And when I say beat the game, I mean, I just, when I was a kid, wow, I played that game a lot. I spent a lot of time in front of the Super Mario Brothers screen. It was just such a fun game. So well made. So much fun. It was a side-scrolling game. If you don't know anything about Super Mario Brothers, I suggest that you somehow find a link on YouTube or something and watch it, because it was a captivating game, and a lot of people spent a lot of time on that game. Of course, I also enjoyed just Mario Brothers. That was an awesome game. Yeah. Really each of the Mario Brothers games were really popular, and they were really enjoyable to play. Yeah. I also liked Ice Climber. Oh man, I played Ice Climber so many times. That was a great game. So much control you had over your character, and it was pretty easy to get points, and the levels were really challenging. Ice Climber and Mario Brothers are very similar games. Really good. So, and of course, I used to play a pinball game every once in a while. I never really got super duper into pinball. Just not my thing. It just didn't seem to be very exciting. And sometimes, depending on where the ball was and the distance between the flappers, there was nothing that you can do. I mean, in some respects, it's fairly determined game, in the sense that if the ball moves in a certain pattern and through certain gates, I mean, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to prevent yourself from losing a ball. I know, and that I always kind of felt that was a little frustrating, that there were a lot of conditions when playing ping pong or pinball that you just couldn't do anything. You had no control over whether you won or lost, because depending on the ball's momentum and direction of travel, you might just lose. And that kind of happened a lot with the ping pong, with the pinballs. Ping pong, on the other hand, now that's a real life sports game. Ping pong is fun. It's probably one of the funnest indoor games, I mean, ever. Or that's also a sport. Believe it or not, there was a time when I don't know if you know anything about video games, but one of the first video games, not the first, but one of the first real popular video games was Pong. And I remember distinctly getting a Pong video game machine. And Pong, I remember what it looks like. For me, it's like a vivid memory. I think I might have been like 6 or 7 years old when I got my first Pong video game system. And it was used. I think it wasn't brand new. It was secondhand. Some other family was giving up their Pong video game machine. I forget what reason we received it. But that was my very first exposure to video games, when I first got that Pong video game machine. And let me tell you, I played that all day long. And the thing about Pong is it was such a simple game. It's essentially it's like playing tennis between two players, and the ball goes between two paddles, right? And I think there were this. That's all it was. It was just three objects in the screen, within the boundaries of the screen. It was your opponent's paddle, your paddle, and then the ball, which was just this square cursor. It wasn't even a circle. It was a square cursor. And there were only two colors in the entire video game. There was black, which was the background, and there was white, which was the color of your ball and the paddles. And it was so funny. When I look back on it now, it was such a primitive game, but you know what? It captivated us. And there are a few games that there were a few variations. There were, and in fact, there wasn't. And in order to go switch from game to game, there was literally a mechanical switch. It was like switch. If the switch was on A, it would be this game. If the switch was on B, it'd be this variation. And if the switch is on C, it'd be that variation. And pretty amazing stuff. And was there any music or sound effects? There might have been a sound effect, like a clunk or a click, 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 or something like that. Yeah, there was like one sound effect, and it was this ping, the ping of the ball bouncing off your paddle. That was what we had. I played it a lot. I remember when I received my very first computer. Again, it was secondhand. John Gibson, my uncle, I guess got like a Commodore 64 or something and needed to pass down his VIC-20 to someone, and he ended up passing it down to us. And so my very first computer was a VIC-20, and I tell you, that was an amazing computer. Love that computer. I think fairly rapidly we figured out what its limitations were, because it was quite a limited machine. I think it only had 3K of RAM, expandable to 5K with the 2K expandability cartridge. I know, 3K. 3K was as good as it got back then. 3 kilobyte RAM. Can you believe that? You know, I think I just bought a computer and it was like, 64 gigabytes. Hey, Google, what is 64 gigabytes divided by 3 kilobytes?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help with that yet.
That's right. Yeah, that's a tough question. But yeah, I remember we even had a modem for that VIC-20 where we could communicate with other BBSs, via telephone line. I don't know. That was pretty amazing stuff. We also had a tape drive. Back then, there were no hard disk drives or solid state drives. Everything was tape. It was like a tape recorder cassette. Yeah. So anyway, that was a good time. I programmed my first program in a computer language. You know, I don't know. I might have been 10 or so years old, 10 to 12 maybe. And I think I was still in middle school. Possibly. No. I was in high school. Was I in high school when I was? No. I was definitely in middle school. Yeah, definitely in middle school. Some of my memories are getting a little rattled. Anyway, that was a good time. Today, in terms of computers, let me tell you what I'm interested in. I'm interested in maybe getting a Raspberry Pi, which is a kind of computer chip, and programming it. I'm also interested in learning Python. Here's the thing. I would love to take classes to learn Python, but I got so much going on. It's one of the, I wish if I were to sort of create my ideal life, it would be a life where I would, at least in part, was a professional. What I would be, at least in part, is a professional student. You know, I am taking classes like now, and I actually am debating whether I should take 2 classes this summer, but I've got too much stuff going on to take 2 academic classes in summer school this summer. I already signed up for the fall semester. I'm going to be taking a photography class this coming fall at Allen Hancock College. Really looking forward to these experiences. Really looking forward to them. And but only taking 1 class or 2 classes at a time is in general, somewhat disappointing. I wish I could take more classes. I, and you know what? Maybe I could. Maybe I just need to knuckle down, you know, and do it. I don't know. I've taken 2 classes at Ellen Hancock College before, and I think I might have even taken 3. No, I've only taken 2 classes. And I struggle. I struggle because I wish I had time to devote to classwork. I tend to struggle a little bit in terms of time management. I guess that's true across the board. Somehow, if I could manipulate life so that I could become a professional student somehow, I would definitely do it. I just don't know how to do it in a way that makes sense. I think what I might have to do one of these days is, well, at least we've got Ellen Hancock College, the local campus here, you know? At least we've got that. I might need to move to a bigger city. Well, anyway, so what's going on with me? So what's going on with me this weekend is I don't have a lot going on, which is kind of interesting. I think what I'm going to do this weekend definitely is put my costume together for walking in the Solstice Parade next Saturday. This weekend is going to be all about the costume and pulling it together. It's going to be an artistic weekend. I'm looking forward to purchasing some fabric from the fabric store Joann's, which is in Santa Maria. And I'm going to be looking forward to pulling out my sewing machine. I'm going to probably make some cuffs for my costume. It's going to be like an Egyptian costume. I'm definitely going to have to figure something out. I'll probably be making some kind of headband. I think I'm going to make a headband, some kind of Egyptian headband. So, and it may be made out of gold or it might be fluorescent pink. I'm not sure what. So, yeah. So that's what I'm going to do this weekend. It's going to be completely devoted to costuming. So watch out, Michael's store, Michael's craft store, because I'm going to be walking in there and picking up some, I don't know what I'm going to need, acrylic paint. Who knows what I'm going to need to pull this costume together. It's going to be some kind of pink Egyptian. I don't know. I can't believe I'm still struggling a week out. And then I'll probably go visit my friends who are at the Solstice Parade workshop down on Garden Street, down in Santa Barbara, and check on them and see how they're doing and maybe get some direction and inspiration about my costume and what I'm going to do. I know. I'm so glad that this year I don't have braces on. Oh my gosh, I'm still adapting to the fact that I don't have braces. Last night, and in fact, a few times on a few previous nights, I have failed to put my retainer in my mouth. Can you believe that? Yeah, I have just completely forgotten. And when I put my retainer in finally, after say 2 days of not having it in, it's a little painful. My teeth, I think, fall out of position pretty easily. It only takes 48 hours, and I notice it when my teeth fall out of position. 24 hours, and my teeth are falling out of position. So what's kind of funny is I hear these stories about these people who let their teeth go awry again after they get braces. You know, I feel a definite need to have a retainer every day. You know, it's necessary. you know, and, maybe, certainly after 48 hours, I mean, I'm feeling like, wow, I really need to get a retainer in my mouth. I guess that's just par for the course. And anyway, I'm really pleased to have regular teeth. And I'm so pleased, it's actually changing my diet quite a bit. I was kind of surprised that when I got my braces off, my diet changed. Yeah, it sure did. And this is how it changed. I'm now eating a lot more apples, a lot more celery. I'm eating a lot more carrots. And that's how it's changed, really. It's really just those three things. I'm eating those things like there's no tomorrow. I especially love eating apples right now. Last night, I was surfing the web and I was looking for the You Pick fruit opportunities here in the county and in Southern California. And I found a few places where I could go pick some apples. And that's going to be a thing for me this autumn. I think apple picking season easily starts in August, September, November. And so I'm going to do my best to frequently go to farms and pick fruit. Why? Why not? There's going to be such a bountiful supply of apples this year because the weather has just been fantastic. So wet. It's really quite good apple weather, if you ask me. It's been kind of cool and chilly. I mean, this is just perfect apple weather. So we're going to have a huge, bountiful crop of apples, and I'm going to be just in apple heaven. It actually kind of, I'm a calorie counter, right? So I'm always trying to squeeze in new things to eat. And I don't know, I would sure like to have just a few extra apple calories. I'd love to eat like 5 apples, but it's not, I've got to watch my calories too. These apples are not calorie free, especially the big ones. The big ones can easily be like 120 calories a shot. So speaking of that, I've been thinking about ways that I can enhance my workouts. And I think I'm going to do some kind of bulking. And then what's the opposite of bulk? Bulking and slimming workout. I'm going to start cycling my diet. I am in that fine control that I can definitely do some weightlifting cycling. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to add like 400 or 500 calories per day to my intake and to my caloric intake. And then I'm going to just crush the gym. I think I'm going to do that for 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks sort of return to like my regular slimming diet. So that is subtract 500 calories. So I'm going to add 500 calories. See, I'm on maintenance now. So I'm going to add 500 calories to my maintenance, and then I'm going to go down to maintenance again. I think that's what I'm going to do. 2 weeks bulking, and then 2 weeks cutting. That's what it is. So for me, cutting is just going to be returning to maintenance. I don't have to cut. There's no one. I think that's just what they call it. I'm just going to return to maintenance calories. So I'm going to start at maintenance, which is fine, a level of calories that I like and that I'm comfortable at. And then I'm going to add 500 calories to that. Maybe even 600 calories. Who knows how wild I'll get. And I'll do that for 2 weeks. And then for the next 2 weeks, I'll go down to maintenance. And so that's a one month cycle. And I think here's my goal. My goal is to use those extra calories to increase my lifts and work out and make some gains, increase the volume. And then when I start cutting, I'm going to try to maintain those higher levels of effort while eating a little bit less. And hopefully, my levels of fat will go down, and I'll keep my muscle. I'll retain the muscle. I'll retain the sort of the higher volume, more intense workout, and I'll be doing it on fewer calories. So I don't know. It sounds exciting to me. This bulking cutting cycle, I think I can do it every month, and I think I can do it 12 times a month. I mean, theoretically, not that I would want to do that. That actually sounds a little bit too extreme, but I could do it every other month or something like that. I think that sounds pretty reasonable. Do this bulking cutting cycle, and it only takes 30 days, which is not a lot of time. 30 days, that'll be gone in a flash. So I think I have the ability, the self-determination, and the skill. It's very high level skill to do something like this, bulking and cutting. It's not, well, bulking is easy. Hey, let me tell you, anyone can throw down more food down their throat than anyone can do that. Bulking is easy. In fact, bulking is like super duper easy. It's the cutting which is the harder part. And for me, that would be just returning to maintenance level calories. Yeah. So pretty amazing stuff. So I'm thinking about doing that. That's a really strong idea. And I'm thinking that I might not do it now. I may do it. I may start it up like, I don't know, mid-July. We'll see how that goes. So more to look forward to. I've been thinking about when the next time I'll go to Six Flags Magic Mountain. I went to Hurricane Harbor last weekend and had a blast. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. And, there's a chance that the weather is going to get warmer and warmer and warmer as the summer goes on. So that's good. I think what I want to do, I do still have to get some water shoes. If I needed anything, well, actually, I kind of do have water shoes already, but I wanted to get some fancy, cool, super awesome water shoes. I do have water shoes. I have them in the bag next to my wetsuit. And honestly, I just don't use them very often. Even when last time I put on my wetsuit, I didn't use them. Yeah. I also want to get a wetsuit hood and some wetsuit gloves. A hood mainly because I just want to protect myself from the cold. And I think, wouldn't it be neat to have just like a neoprene hat or something like that? I think that'd be cool. I think it would be a little bit warmer. I could probably spend more time in the ocean. Yeah, with a nice little hat. And, it could protect me if I bumped my head on something. It offers me a little bit more cushion. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. One thing I guess I could do is I could go hot tubbing this weekend. Oh, no. It's one of the things that's really great about being single is the freedom that you have to do whatever you want to do. It's pretty awesome. I mean, there's no reason why any weekend has to be boring. I mean, I could just drive up to Yosemite and visit friends. In fact, just a moment ago, I had a friend of mine direct message me saying that I could go up to Yosemite and check out their home, spend the night over there. That sounds like fun. I could very well do that. In fact, I'm going to be heading up to Santa Cruz like in 2 weeks. And that actually would be a good time to go visit them in Yosemite. Man, I think I'm going to be using a lot of vacation time this year because I got all kinds of plans, all kinds of plans. Yosemite, I mean, just in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to be going to, or maybe in the next month and a half, I'm going to be traveling to, I mean, Yosemite National Park, Santa Cruz, Mountain View, California, also, and back to Albuquerque again, driving to all those places. I mean, it's just going to be amazing. Hopefully, my car doesn't break down. It's got 306,000 miles on it. That is one trooper vehicle. I don't know that. Let me tell you, Toyota knows how to build a car. Let me tell you, or at least they did back in 1999. I'm so pleased that my vehicle is somehow staying in one piece, despite all the driving that I'm doing. Anyway, I'm just sitting back and reflecting just how wonderful my life is right now. It's just fabulous. I'm just doing all kinds of amazing things. Emily, if there's one thing you ought to know is that your dad is pretty fabulous. If there's one thing you ought to know about me, it's that I'm pretty darn fabulous. So just trying to transmit that information to you somehow. You could say, Miguel is my fabulous dad, Trujillo. Well, anyway, I am going to take off and just wrap this video session up. I hope you're doing well today. Heck, you're on summer vacation, so you get to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And I mean, that extra freedom must be amazing. This summer is going to be amazing for you. You've got so much control, so much good judgment. You have resources available to you so that you can do whatever you want. And there's just so much opportunity in the summer with all this free time you get. Come on, girl. So I'm really hoping that you're having an enjoyable summer vacation. And more power to you, girl. And if there's any time that you want to, I don't know, explore something together with me, I would totally be happy and willing to do it. We could go see a movie or go get some ice cream or something, go get some tacos. I would be into it, totally into it. And or maybe go get some slushies. 7-Eleven, maybe July 11th is free slushy day. Oh, but I'm not going to be around. I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be in Santa Cruz. 7-Eleven. Oh, well. Well, maybe maybe it's a good idea that we could come up with a date to go get some slushies. I'd be totally into that. Anyway, I hope you're having a fantastic day today and fantastic week. And we'll be having a fantastic weekend. And I'll talk to you later. Okay, girl? Bye-bye. I love you.